countries, the 12 countries that are lending experts and military support. And I'm going to show you exactly what it all means with those countries. So, Barbara said the countries, this is wide-ranging, it is very deep. The largest contingent of the search operation, of course, comes from Malaysia, which has 9 ships, 9 Navy ships, 17 other vessels, 3 helicopters, a vast array of resources. And you'd expect that as well. It's a Malaysia plane, they're the state of origin, they're the state of registry, and they could well end up being the state of occurrence because of where it actually goes through. But the largest number of passengers of nationality come from China. And, of course, China now has sent huge resources, 8 ships, 3 helicopters, 2 fixed-winged airplanes, 10 satellites. Those satellites, incidentally, they were the source of the pictures that we saw yesterday of the floating debris in the water. We all took that because of the positioning of that debris. It was just off into the right sort of area, and we all took that as being extremely significant, but that proved not to be the case. Vietnam has sent resources in, 6 fixed-wing, 2 helicopters, excuse me, and 7 ships. Vietnam initially pulled back some of their resources, believing, of course, that they weren't getting enough information. So all these countries with an enormous amount of information. And this is the sort of thing. I want you to think about just the difficulty of what they're engaged in. Whether it is satellite telemetry, looking off a ship, looking from an aircraft, or indeed just from the sky into the water and trying to see something off. And you've got language barriers, different radar formats when it comes to the equipment. And some of the forces, of course, as always, would be relying on binoculars, whereas the US Navy is using high-tech night goggles. NASA's using cameras on the ISS as well. So, never mind the finger-pointing or the frustration. The head of IATA, the Air Transport Association, says finding the missing plane remains the #1 priority. And Tony Tyler said this isn't the time for accusations.
It's a very difficult situation for the various authorities involved, and I wouldn't want to make their job any more difficult than it is already. We just want to hope that they can find this aircraft. And later on, let's, by all means, we can look at how well that all this process has worked. But right now, let's just focus on the priority.
Right. And one final question on this area: the passport question and the fact that a database clearly, I mean, it seems to be a red herring in terms of what happened. But again, another question raised. That your members will quite rightly be wanting to know from various authorities: how do stolen passports, a year after they've been stolen, still get people onto planes?
Yes, I think, the airline industry provides, at some significant expense to itself, it provides a lot of information to governments, what we call advanced passenger information. And, if you travel, you have to give your passport number, you have to give lots of details. The airlines then have to give that to governments. Some governments even charge us for providing this information into their systems. And governments should be asked whether they're using it or not. If they're not using information, why not? If they're not using the Interpol database of lost and stolen and misappropriated passports and cancelled passports, then why not? And I think it's up to governments all around the world to face up to this issue and to get on top of it.
Tony Tyler, in the last half hour, Commander William Marks of the US Navy has been commenting. Speaking to my colleague, Will Blitzer, he